So coming into the United States as a refugee, definitely an experience to be had. You're coming in with 40 bucks in your pocket, never driven a car in your life, you're just a young guy. The only thing I ever had that was close to having wheels was my bicycle. And here we are in the United States, early 2006. Absolutely never driven a car in my life, being gifted a car. It was an old Mazda 626. If you remember those with a bunch of buttons on it and the self-propelled belts, I'm not sure if it was a Japanese option or most of the cars, but as soon as you turn the car on, it will like buckle you in. It had so many buttons. To me, it was a spaceship. The only time I've seen so many buttons on anything was my calculator in high school. And here we are in a car. There are so many things in it, so many buttons, and it was just an exciting moment to have a car. I have to say that to me, it was the best thing in the world. You know, when you have a car and you get one gifted to you by, again, the organization that helped us come into this country called Church World Services. You're definitely exciting. You know, you wash your car, you're excited, you want to touch the car, you want to wash it, you want to keep it clean, even if it had 280,000 miles. I know it sounds weird that Mazda can make it to those miles, but it did. My experience in driving was so limited that I was not used to driving an automatic transmission. Now, I'm not used to driving a car, period, but having an automatic was even more weird because I expected to see some pedals and a stick shift, but it wasn't the deal. My initial drive to the car, I treated the car as if it was a mechanical transmission, and I'll go from like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and then drive, and it had an overdrive button on it. And that was the thing that worked out for the first 3 days. On the fourth day, it was an interesting incident that I had. As I'm climbing into the on-ramp to the highway, I'm going from the first, the second, the third, and the car is really accelerating, and I didn't pay attention that I actually put into the reverse. So imagine a driver on the right lane, seeing a Mazda just flying into the right lane, and all of a sudden slamming into the imaginary wall with the smoke coming out under the car, and literally going to a near halt on a highway. Literally almost stopped the car, making weird noises. Quickly putting it to the drive, as if nothing happened. I didn't do this. Car kind of puts itself together and start driving, making a bunch of noises, but it was drivable. I drive like that for about 6 miles to the nearest exit. Take the exit, go to the gas station, assess the damages. Wheels there, seems like transmission still attached to the car. Okay, we're good. There's no problem. All right, good. Okay. Drive away from the gas station, come home as if like nothing happened. You know, it's the only car, the whole family is excited, right? That's the only mode of transportation for the whole family, and I had a huge family. It was nice until I had to park the car in reverse. We realized where the damage come from. The reverse gear was left on a highway on the on-ramp somewhere because there was nowhere to be found. The only way the car could move is only forward, no reverse. Okay, challenge accepted. Start driving the car like that to school. Now, when we came to this country, I was still taking ESL classes. My English was extremely limited. Obviously, I had to go to school and had to be very strategic where I park my car, either on a hill that I can actually roll back or empty parking lot I can just go forwards. I drove like that for about, kid you not, 6 months. One day I was driving the car, and as I was driving on the highway, everybody started stopping, just emergency stop, everyone slamming on their brakes, and I had to slam my brakes as well. I slammed those brakes, grinding noise coming out, bunch of other stuff happening that I'm not sure what's going on with the car, but I know that I'm not stopping fast enough. To avoid slamming into the car in front of me, I'm veering off into the field, which Lancaster, Pennsylvania has a lot of fields. We're going to the field. Avoid any crashes. Okay, let's assess the damage. What happened here? Coming out of the car, a young guy, super nervous, acting like nothing happened, even though I'm like 40 feet into the grass. Realized the brakes were not really that good. Okay, assess the damage. Do we have money to fix them? No. Is the car drivable? Seems like it. So get out of the field, start driving the car. Super careful with my brakes, keeping amazing big distances between me and the cars in front of me. You can literally land there like a jumbo jet between us. People were just pissed that I was keeping the distance. Little did they know that pretty much limited amount of braking on my car. Drove like that until I realized that my front right and my rear left were the real good brakes. The other wheels were just involved in driving part, not much of the braking. So that was the drive that I did for about 2 weeks, and I decided that it was not safe. It was time to take the car to the junkyard. It's the only time when I went to the junkyard and the guys at the junkyard said, nope, we're not going to take this car. I was surprised to hear that. They said that you can take it to another place where they just take the metal. So the junkyard didn't want to accept the Mazda 626, and they said just take it to the metal yard, they'll accept it, and they gave me, I believe, $62. $62 for the car back in 2007. That was the drive of a Mazda, and that's the history with that car that I had. Once the Mazda was sold for 62 bucks, I had enough money to buy maybe 3 Uber drives back home. and I had to buy something different. I then found out that in our community where we lived, there are some guys that had cars with great stories, that Ed would put it. And I decided to look at some of those cars. It was a Honda Civic 1998 DX model, the one that is just bare bone model, just, steering wheel and wheels and nothing else came with it. That car was a beautiful red single stage paint on it. It had so much body panel damage that these guys had to buy body filler in buckets to make sure that it looked decent enough. But again, it was my second car. It has a red hot type of color to it, and I was just excited to have it. Going from Mazda with all the buttons into the 15th century, no buttons. You had just a little toggles for the air conditioning, and those guys who had the Civics SIs and Civic DXs, they know the difference between those two families, right? SIs had a little bit more buttons, like 4 more buttons, and DX had no buttons. It was quite a change. I didn't realize that, after a few years from 1990 to 1998, Japanese cars were losing and shedding weight by losing buttons. But that was the deal. But again, it was a first 2-door car, manual, that I've never driven a manual in my life. I bought the car literally on a handshake and was left with an idea of learning how to drive the stick shift back home, even though I've never driven a stick shift. Civics are just bulletproof for the fact that I, the guy that never driven a stick shift, was able to make it home, and the clutch and transmission stayed together. So for the Civic, since you're poor, right, you don't have money, what do? Well, you buy stickers, right? Those stickers, they have a bunch of stuff on the door. I mean, everybody watched Fast and Furious, and those cars with stickers. All right, we're putting stickers. So I put a bunch of stickers on the door on both sides, and they didn't match. Literally, one of them had the bath ceiling stuff that we had. It just looked like a great sticker that I just put on the car. Then somebody pointed out to me and said, "Isn't that like a bath ceiling stuff that you guys put on like around your bathroom?" I'm like, no, I think that's something else. Then I realized it wasn't. But definitely in my mind, those stickers add like 300 horsepower to the car. And then having the cheapest exhaust I can find for, I think, $20, I bought from a guy that, had his car crashed. And that car literally had air filter, just rigged with like duct tape, had the stickers that add 300 horsepower, imaginary horsepower, and a exhaust pipe that just made noises, not even good noises. And that was my first sports car, moving from Mazda to a sports car. In my mind, that was a deal. Actually, I was able to save enough money to buy aftermarket headlights because my headlights kept falling off. Every time I'd brake on that Civic, it was so badly put together after the crash that these guys that sold cars with stories would glue them in or use like plastic that would just melt the plastic instead of the clips to just make sure that everything stayed together. But as soon as you brake hard, the headlights had the tendency to fall off. So you'd every now and then you would go back to the front of the car in traffic and then trying to put those headlights back in and keep driving. So I couldn't do that for long. So I decided to buy those eBay special headlights that also didn't work most of the time. As you remember, eBay quality isn't really something that back in the day people could be too proud of. But again, looked great, and that's all I cared about, and worked sometimes. Now, today I have really cool cars, amazing supercars. I'm just so blessed to have those cars, but those cars also break. Having those cars from the past and learning how to take care of them, care for them, wash them, clean them, and be this guy that, takes great care of his car with how many thousand miles are on it didn't really matter to me. Really taught me today to look after those cars that I have. I'm still the same guy who would wash the car 5 times in a week just to make sure it looked cool. But they still break. It doesn't matter if it's a Mazda 626 that doesn't have a reverse or has constant issues, or Honda Civic that has headlights falling off of it every time you brake. These supercars have pretty much similar issue. 430 that has his rear mirrors that keep falling off every time you go over a bump. True story. Happened on a highway on 76. But again, we love those cars for the fact that they make us feel special. And today, supercars or not, they all tend to break, and they all have a story, and they all have interesting backgrounds that we have to live with.
Who wants a free carbon fiber ring? Well, right now, Patrick Adair Designs is giving away a free carbon fiber ring with any purchase if you use the code VINwikicF at checkout on their website. You can find them at the link in the description below. You can also follow along on Patrick Adair's YouTube channel. You've seen him here telling car stories, but over there, he documents his journey in entrepreneurism and some of the amazing things they do to create rings out of the most interesting materials from Earth and from space. So check them out now and thank them for their support of VINwiki.